Now, we come to a very unique point at this evening. The first thing that makes this point now a bit unique is that we're in a very, very bad situation now because it's already the last talk. The second unique thing is the only man who will speak to us. And this man comes from the University of Kassel, and they're from the Center for, and it's a long name, for Interdisciplinary Nanostructure Science and Technology. And he's a nanoscientist by training, but a physicist when he got his PhD. Yeah, when you have gotten it, then you're a real physicist. Until now, you're sort of in a meta state. You know, like a cat. So I'm a quantum optician by training, and I would call that a cat state. So you're both. At the moment, you're a nanoscientist and physicist at the same time, and afterwards, when you got the PhD, you have done the measurement, and then you're a physicist.
So complicated.
Yeah, that's how we physicists think. You know, that's why you're a nanoscientist. Now, yeah, what this all has to do and how to apply, so how to use this like a bit more. Now I'm also an engineer, you know, and my job title is now engineer. I have to get used to being an engineer, and how this ingenuity can be transferred and used for physics. This is what Yahya Shubbak now tells you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. Nanoscience is hard, eh? How many nanoscientists here? No, forget about it. My name is Yahya Shubbak, and today I'm going to convince you why you should be using large particles to collect and transport small particles. Because I'm sure that you all have been there. We all have been there. We've had a great day in the lab. Everything was running smoothly. Windows didn't crash. The AFM produced no noise. You submitted a Nature paper, it got accepted immediately. You feel great about yourself. You turn off your synchrotron facility. You hit the street. You want to go home. You look gorgeous. You look down on your shoes, and damn it, your shoes are untight. I say, well, you know, I'm a physicist. I can be smart. This is just a topological problem of nth order. So you turn your favorite search engine on, you go to the DuckDuckGo, and you see all these weird patterns. Half of them I can't even pronounce. I mean, maybe a visualization might help. So you go to the YouTube, and you see that it's really two different colors. You have to stick one under the other, and that's just too darn complicated. No physicist should be dwelling among these problems on a daily basis. Happens to me twice a day. This is, I tell you what, we just ditch the shoelaces altogether, and we go back to the roots, we go back to the basis, we go to Velcro, we go to Klettverschluss, because it's foolproof. Even I can use it. It's such a simple thing, but I guarantee you, as I look, I mean, I can't see any shoes, but I guarantee you, none of you are wearing any Klettverschluss shoes. And that's because it's so darn expensive. The big pharma, I mean, the big Klett industry, they want your money. They want your hard-earned halbe Stelle PhD position money. And it's just... not going to do that. That's why you also see no Klettverschluss. But then a very smart man, my professor, he suggested, I don't pay you good enough, you should collect your own Klett. We should make our own natural Klettverschluss shoes. And he comes up with this idea, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. Brilliant, man. But we physicists, we have a problem. I'm a physicist. We have a problem, right? We figure out a solution, perfect. It comes with 5 new problems. That's usually how it works. So, I mean, Klettverschluss. Klett comes from this plant, and I mean, if you look at it, it's so darn tiny. There are tiny, tiny particles. There's a bumblebee for comparison. It's very small. It's doing hard work there, but it's so small. You could send your finest master student to pick it from the fields. Hand pick it. Just go into the fields and pick the damn thing, but he could also be doing useful data science for you. That's way better. He is so good at Python. Thank you so much. Without him, no plot will be done ever. I'm not a real physicist. So instead, I come to the first statement that I made. I'm going to convince you now why you should be using large particles to collect and transport small particles. So, I present to you the humble sheep, and why not? It's a perfect sphere. And it is, you know, it's symmetrical. Not even in vacuum, see, it's on the land. And it's so much bigger than the cargo, the precious cargo we want to collect. See, it's you know, sheep bigger, are bigger, Klett. So perfect, we can use that. And you can see here, our large particle is doing its job. It's having all this precious, precious Klett. We can spit the Klett industry in the face. But you immediately see yet another problem. You see, problem, solution, 5 problems. We have this large particle here, pulling one for the team, and then we have all the tiny particles back there. I don't know if you can see them, they're so small. And then we have this lazy one, hardly doing anything. It has collected, what, 2 Kletts? So, the problem here being, right now we are not organized at all. Everything seems random. The Klett is way over there, and we have our large particles all the way here. So what we do, we go to the lab and we create artificial stripe patterns using, I don't know, light or gardening methods. This is here, lawnmower, and we can then create artificial stripes here. This is a simple pattern, it's just a stripe pattern, but what will be created then within these are domain walls. And the sheep, they will arrange themselves on the domain walls. Isn't that perfect? Now we have order. Order means we also have some structure that repeats itself. That's perfect for all physicists. Everyone is happy. And something neat happens now between the domain walls. Potential barriers will form. And because, I know they're cute, and because they are microscopic objects, they cannot tunnel through it, they cannot make it. And if you ever have been outside of Dresden, maybe, I don't know, and have seen some sheep in real life, they tend to move around everywhere, but with potential barriers, they are confined, right? And we are confining them in order, which is perfect. But now, if you want to meaningfully transport them, we need external stimuli. We need shepherd dogs. We arrange them in X and also in Z. Here's a coordinate system. We arrange them in X and Z. I will tell you on Thursday if you want to know why. And now, and now, if the dogs bark with just the right frequency, in coordination in X and Z, take a look at X dogs and Z dogs, I should have labeled them. but we have a coordinate system. If they bark at the right frequency, the sheep will move as you would expect. They would just move about their life and doing sheep things. They bark and the sheep move, and it's quite remarkable because you see this on a daily basis. This is how they move, and don't know, I'm from Kassel. This is how they do it. And now imagine we have our precious clet in the vicinity of the sheep. If they now move, clet to sheep adsorption can happen. And we made it. We've collected efficiently our own natural clet. Isn't that amazing? Now, you can see another problem. We essentially went back 2 slides because this one is not doing anything. These are just lazy bummers and they have done the work. So, how we physicists decide whether we have collected enough clet is quite simple. We just have a perfect sphere, our large particle, and we stand there in the field with our special tools, with our microscopes, with our telescopes, and we observe the sheep. Because, you see, the sheep, they have an equilibrium distance in Z. So the sheep, the head, to the substrate, to the lawn, is, there's a certain distance. And if now too many clets, too much of them, has adsorbed to the sheep, look what happens, look closely. We get a smaller equilibrium distance in Z. Perfect! Because, now we can go back to our first problem, our first solution. No? And if we then excite the dogs, they are too loaded. They cannot make it. They cannot make the jump because the smaller equilibrium distance, they will hit the fence and nothing will happen. So we physicists, we stand there, we look, we watch. They cannot make the jump anymore. They must be full of our precious clet. That's amazing. And to confirm this, we can use even larger, stronger dogs. And sure enough, these dogs, they have special training. If they bark at a higher frequency or, louder, and then, sure enough, they will make the jump again. So this is a clue for us that once we have the first frequency dialed in and they cannot make the jump anymore, we must have collected enough of our precious, precious clet. But now, Dresden, I need to come clean. There is no such thing as dogs chasing sheep. There is, but not in our lab, unfortunately. But what we do instead, we don't have a lawn where sheep wander around, but we have an exchange bias, thin film, magnetically patterned substrate from which magnetic fields will emerge in a regular pattern. These will be your potential barriers, actual barriers. And we don't have sheep that we transport around, but rather super paramagnetic beads that will align with the magnetic fields that they see. They become ferromagnetic. They're just so tiny, something 200 nanometers to a few micrometers in diameter. And of course, we don't excite with dogs. I'm allergic, but it would be cute. We have magnets. We use Helmholtz coils, and we flip just on the right frequency the magnetization to create new minima and maxima come Thursday. And then they move all, and then this is how we transport them. And of course, we are not interested in clet at all. I personally am, but not my professor. Instead of clet, we want to be able to detect viruses, biomolecules, maybe cancer cells floating around in your body, which are notoriously hard to detect. Some of them, they coat themselves in a polysaccharide coating such that the immune system doesn't spot them, which makes it extremely difficult to take a blood sample and treat it like, I don't know, they would treat it, and it's very costly, and you have to have the right infrastructure, and it's just very, very difficult. And we already managed, not we, but shout out to Jelly, we already managed to do this on a quantitative basis. So that's something very huge, because we can produce these chips quite simple. It's cheap, and the substrate can be used over and over and over again, not like the COVID test that you throw away, and then the particles cost not much. And in our lab, it's not the big pharma that we're talking about, big clet, but big pharma, yeah, that exactly. And we managed also to show something. This is 2 different particles with exactly the same size, exactly the same mass. And I plot here the mobility and the pulse duration of the magnetic field, how they change, and they are only chemically different functionalized. And this is enough for me, for us, I don't know, to be able to distinguish them in a transport experiment, which I think is quite remarkable. Come on Thursday. And it's a very nice idea. It's very helpful, I think, in my opinion. That's why I'm doing it. And although it is so great, it's an infancy. And with this, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Yahya.